We all know how messy the release of Cyberpunk 2077 was back in 2020, and since the devs recently confirmed that they are working on a new Witcher game, it begs the question, what can The Witcher 4 learn from Cyberpunk 2077's disastrous release and subsequent redemption? And what might Witcher 4 look like based on CDPR's grand but ultimately undelivered Cyberpunk promises? Every aspect of Cyberpunk 2077 was plagued with problems. We have a whole video cataloging the details, but basically, the marketing, development, and release of the game all hit massive stumbling blocks that cost CD Projekt Red their reputation. It's a series of mistakes they cannot afford to repeat with their next game, especially because the next game happens to be the fourth installment of the Witcher series. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was a runaway success and one of the most awarded games ever made. And since the release of Netflix's adaptation of the Witcher books, the franchise's fanbase has only grown. Putting out a subpar fourth game would be a fate worse than death for both the series and CD Projekt Red as a developer.
You waste my time.
No, wait!
Luckily, Cyberpunk's missteps can help guide the devs to greener pastures, and interestingly, it may provide fans with an insight into what we can expect from the next Witcher game, which is great because right now all we have to go off of is an image of a lynx-headed medallion in the snow and a vague press release. We don't even know its name, so we're just gonna keep calling it Witcher 4. So what can CDPR, The Witcher 4, and the gaming public learn from the marketing, development, and release of Cyberpunk 2077? Let's speculate. Do you remember that first teaser trailer from Cyberpunk 2077? It sure looked incredible, just a highly stylized cinematic piece of art that gave prospective players a taste of what was yet to come. We were left to theorize about who these people were, what the story behind this beautiful scene was, and how it would all play out. And then, we had to wait nearly 8 years for the actual game, and it ended up being nothing like the teaser. Cinematic trailers are great. They're like a rite of passage among AAA games. But unless a studio wants to be memed into oblivion, they should never put one out if it's looking like the game still has almost a decade of development time left. This was Cyberpunk 2077's first major marketing mistake that cannot be repeated with The Witcher 4. Not only does it instill false hope in a speedy release, but it also drums up an untamable hype beast. When players are given nothing but an incredibly well-made and unrealistically gorgeous cinematic trailer to base their expectations off for years, of course those expectations are going to reach absurd heights. This goes double for a new Witcher game. With the fanbase already as ravenous as it is, putting out a cinematic trailer too early could spell disaster for the release. Luckily, CDPR has apparently already learned this lesson, as in a strategy update for their shareholders, they made sure to note that marketing and PR campaigns will start closer to the actual launch. Clearly, this is a response to their misguided approach to marketing Cyberpunk. Which is why, when The Witcher 4 inevitably gets its own cinematic teaser trailer, it will likely come out within a year or two of the game's expected release date. Maybe 3 if they want to stretch it in the way they did with the Wild Hunt. In that same strategy update, they also emphasized that game communication will focus on more polished footage and demos, which not so coincidentally is the second huge marketing mistake CDPR made with Cyberpunk. If only one thing can be learned about Cyberpunk's marketing, it's that a 48-minute gameplay demo should never reach the public if most of that footage is going to be changed by launch day. No matter how many work-in-progress disclaimers you paste over the footage, this reads to players like a promise. With CD Projekt Red's admirable new commitment to open communication, we can definitely expect The Witcher 4 to get a gameplay demo. Though it probably won't be quite as long as Cyberpunk's E3 2018 one. Multiple shorter demos that focus on particular aspects of gameplay like combat, questing, and choice system are a much more likely scenario. That way, CDPR can choose to showcase features that are mostly finalized, rather than essentially fabricating whole aspects of gameplay the way they did with Cyberpunk 2077, because they were running out of time to actually polish a lot of what was promised in marketing. And running out of time to include all of their promised features is one extremely important part of development that CD Projekt Red needs to learn from. We all know that Cyberpunk 2077 was created under crunch culture, and it was worse off for it. CDPR has already been very vocal about how they're striving to make The Witcher 4's development a crunch-free process, Once again, they're already learning from their mistakes, but it also means that we as players can expect quite a long wait for that new Witcher. Creating a great game takes time, and Witcher 4 is going to take even longer because CDPR is switching game engines. The game will not be made on Red Engine, which the devs have been using since 2011's Witcher 2. It will be made on the modern and outrageously powerful Unreal Engine 5. This is going to unlock a ton of really exciting things for CDPR. With this new engine, a lot of what was promised or partially delivered in Cyberpunk 2077 could actually make an appearance in the next Witcher game. An in-depth world with Red Dead-esque NPC routines, dynamic weather, customizable bases, better life paths, and more involved alignment systems where siding with certain groups gives a player access to new perks are all possible. But on the other hand, the reason people loved The Witcher is the story and characters, both which were severely lacking in Cyberpunk 2077. Yet another thing the devs can learn from Cyberpunk is not to bite off more than they can chew when it comes to adding content to The Witcher 4. When creating Cyberpunk, DCPR suffered from some major tunnel vision, forgetting what made players love their games in the first place and instead focusing on new shiny toys like advancements in AI, graphical improvements, and enhanced customization options, which ultimately fell short at launch. In an ideal world, we would see a balance of these two extremes, a story and character worthy of the Witcher name, but with some more modern additions, which is a pretty reasonable expectation since CD Projekt Red isn't actually working alone anymore. They are planning a strategic partnership with Epic Games, which is an interesting move. The studios will be working together to help tailor Unreal Engine 5 for The Witcher's open-world experience. And hey, who knows, with the Fortnite developers behind the project, we may even get the multiplayer mode CDPR has been teasing. Depending on how you feel about Epic, this might be really exciting. But learning and using a new engine is still a massive undertaking. It's both a risk and a necessary move to take the quality of the Witcher series to the next level. And while CDPR has publicly stated they aren't planning on releasing the game as an Epic Games Store exclusive, we're a long way from release. And in the meantime, there's still plenty CDPR can learn from the famously terrible launch of Cyberpunk 2077. First and foremost, let's kill the release a buggy game and fix it later strategy, shall we? Cyberpunk certainly wasn't the first CD Projekt Red game to come out full of bugs. The Witcher 3 had its fair share of game-breaking issues and tiny annoyances as well. But those were fixed in a relatively short amount of time and barely remembered today. On the other hand, Cyberpunk 2077's bugs were persistent, great in number, and still not entirely exterminated. Additionally, because Cyberpunk 2077 was so broken, the devs had to spend significant resources on damage control, both technically and publicly. Hours and hours of time went into getting the game to be playable on every platform after launch. And then, of course, there was the whole refund drama. This prevented them from getting right to work on a supplemental DLC the way they did for The Witcher 3. It's unrealistic to assume a game, especially an open-world RPG, will be 100% bug-free. But given just how high-profile Cyberpunk's failings were, it's not likely they'll be eager to repeat that experience with The Witcher 4. CDPR definitely needs to take that lesson and do a lot more internal playtesting before release. Which would mean we could expect far fewer game-breaking bugs across all platforms. And, if that's the case, then some DLC may be hot on the heels of The Witcher 4's initial release. More than likely, we'll see some small free bits of DLC before the larger story-expanding paid DLC within a year or two after launch. This is a strategy we saw with The Witcher 3, and it would certainly help the fourth game escape the crucifixion Cyberpunk 2077 endured over the first year of its existence. But the biggest lesson to take from this whole ordeal, and one CD Projekt Red is certainly already taking to heart, is that no matter what The Witcher 4 looks like at launch, they cannot give up on it. After Cyberpunk was unanimously deemed a disaster, it would have been easy for CDPR to write it off as a loss and dive straight into a new project. But instead, they've spent the better part of 2 years trying to repair the game and their relationship with fans. This is exactly the kind of energy and dedication we need for Witcher 4. Whether the game is an unmitigated success or it needs endless post-launch patches, CD Projekt Red cannot abandon it because that would also mean abandoning the series and leaving it to die. Based on the studio's hard work and consistent free updates on Cyberpunk 2077, we can safely assume that abandonment is not something we have to worry about with The Witcher 4. In fact, it should give us all hope that The Witcher 4 may be the most enduring game of the series. That is, as long as CD Projekt Red learns from Cyberpunk 2077. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, remember to hit the like button and subscribe to Nerdstalgic Gaming.